Her father came and said, "I am going to kill you." What a chilling thought. Well, our special guest, and for security reasons, we've not been able to tell you about her until now. Arifka Barry is with us. There she is. She's in the green room, and she'll be with us shortly. She's the young woman who fled from her Muslim family at the age of 16, fearing her father would kill her because she had become a Christian. What an amazing testimony that's coming up on the 700 Club.
Well, but first in the news, despite President Obama's promises to defeat ISIS, the radical Islamic Army has won another victory and now controls more than half of the entire country of Syria. Caitlin Burke has the story.
Syrian government forces say they were no match for ISIS militants.
The IS militants have tanks, mortars, missiles, and heavy machine guns. Their weapons are advanced.
Palmyra is northeast of Damascus and far from the major areas controlled by government forces. USA Today reports observers in Britain say ISIS has also taken control of the vast majority of Syria's oil and gas fields. Not far from the main settlements in Palmyra is the ancient city, home to a large amount of historic relics still buried underground. Activists say that now that ISIS has control, they'll likely destroy the priceless artifacts. The group has already destroyed major archaeological sites in Iraq that predated the founding of Islam.
Our next mission is to conduct military action with surgical precision, since any heavy weapons, such as shells, launched from planes and tanks can injure civilians. We have been ordered to be very careful when launching strikes on IS.
According to reports, the Syrian government increased the number of soldiers in Palmyra to protect the archaeological site. But when the fighting began, more than 300 residents pledged allegiance to ISIS, helping them take the city. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Well, it's one more tragedy, and anybody who's an observer of the state of the world now is just appalled at the action or inaction of our administration. It's just terrible. And while ISIS is winning more victories in Syria and Iraq, our president is saying, well, the real problem is the flooding that will take place and the dangers of global warming. Global warming in the midst of revolutionary military action? John Jessup has that story from our CBN newsroom in Washington. Here's John.
Thanks, Pat. President Obama called climate change a threat to America's national security. In a speech to Coast Guard graduates in Connecticut, he said climate change is contributing to social tension and political instability around the world.
Climate change will impact every country on the planet. No nation is immune. So I'm here today to say that climate change constitutes a serious threat to global security, an immediate risk to our national security. And make no mistake, it will impact how our military defends our country. And so we need to act, and we need to act now.
The Republican chairman of the Senate and House Armed Services Committees criticized the president's focus on global warming when ISIS is on the move and the U.S. faces other serious threats. The U.S. military is planning an unprecedented training exercise this summer called Operation Jade Helm 15 across 7 states. And with polls showing trust in the government near record lows, that exercise has some Americans feeling uneasy. Jennifer Wishon brings us that story.
Have you heard of this military special operations command exercise called Jade Helm?
Speculation about why the military wants to train in American communities instead of military bases is fueling a growing number of theories across the internet and social media.
The government will take action when it thinks its authority is threatened.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott has even asked his National Guard to monitor it. So what is Jade Helm 15? It's realistic military training taking place simultaneously in 7 states, from Southern California to Texas. Over 8 weeks, the nation's elite special forces will practice unconventional warfare by operating outside their normal support systems, adapting to new terrain, and working with civilians to gain their trust. When news of the operation broke, the phones inside Texas Congressman Louis Gohmert's office lit up.
At first, people were not sure what to think Do we have to worry about martial law? Is our federal government coming in and going to practice imposing martial law on Texas?
A former Army captain, Gohmert says he understands the need for training, yet it bothers him that as part of the exercise, the military is labeling Texas, Utah, and Southern California as hostile.
This is actually taking areas of our home country, the United States, and saying Texas is hostile, Utah is hostile, Southern California is hostile, and we got to take it back from the hostiles. I find that incredibly offensive.
And he thinks it's no coincidence that the Jade Helm 15 map looks an awful lot like the 2012 political map. So-called hostile states are colored red. The suspicion surrounding Jade Helm 15 is fueled by the fact that a vast majority of Americans simply don't trust the government, a level of mistrust that has peaked under the Obama administration, driven by what many believe to be violations of the Constitution and civil liberties. This is what Americans understand war looks like, but Cheryl Chumley, author of Police State USA, says Jade Helm 15 is introducing a new type of warfare, the master of the human domain.
What's going to happen is the special operations soldiers are going to be dressed in civilian clothes, driving civilian vehicles, and they're going to be tasked with striking up rapport with the local citizens.
It's a new strategy to root out terrorists since locals notice odd behavior first. In Jade Helm, citizens are part of the exercise.
Watch out, because that guy that strikes up a conversation with you at the local 7-Eleven, is he a Jade Helm 15 participant? You know, it's a psychological warfare that it kind of messes with your mind a little bit.
White House spokesman Josh Earnest says special forces moving about communities will wear armbands.
I feel confident in expressing to you, without having a lot of detailed knowledge of the particular exercise, is that the civil liberties and constitutional rights of American citizens will be in no way affected by this exercise.
Despite conspiracy theories, Congressman Gohmert isn't worried that the U.S. military is going to issue martial law, but he's not happy with the president.
When my own commander-in-chief, through his subordinates, is just fine with, for games purposes, declaring an enemy of 2 or more of your states, I've got a real problem with that. That is one of the most insensitive, just outrageous things that a military commander could do.
Chumley urges Americans to always stay vigilant when it comes to the government.
What I love most about America is that our rights come from God, not government. And I think we need to hold fast to that principle, because once that's gone, then you just open the doors to more and more government encroachments.
Jennifer Wishon, CBN News.
Thanks, Jennifer. And in health news, more than a third of adults in the U.S. suffer from a dangerous combination of medical problems that could put their health at risk as they get older. According to new research, the condition is called metabolic syndrome. It includes high blood pressure, problems with cholesterol, increased levels of blood sugar, and a waistline that's too big. And that combination raises the risk of heart disease and diabetes. Health Day News reports that one of the study's authors says the sheer number of people with these problems could place a huge burden on America's healthcare system in the future. And Pat, the study found nearly 50% of people 60 and older had that condition.
Well, it's a terrible thing. That's what everybody's been talking about, isn't it? Inflation. Not inflation, but inflammation. And the inflammation gets into your cells. You don't see it on the surface. But it's causing your arteries to go bad. It's causing the capillaries to go bad. It means you've got perpetual disease inside of your body. And it's caused primarily by the diet we eat, the crazy fast food, too much sugar, way, way, way too much sugar, sedentary lifestyle, and of course the stress of modern living. All those things coupled together bring together metabolic syndrome, and I ain't got it, and I don't want it. And neither does Terry.
You're helping. No,
I'm not going to have metabolic syndrome. I will not have it. Hey, by the way, over at Walgreens, I don't know if I say over because it's just down the street from us, but if it's a Walgreens or a CVS or one of those other drugstores, they have these little armbands, and you can punch in the little armband, and it'll give you a reading of your blood pressure and the way your heart's beating. And you can tell if indeed, because that metabolic syndrome, you can pretty much tell when you look at your blood pressure. So it costs you $50, $60, but is it that expensive? I think that's what they cost.
Is it that much to do it at the?
Maybe
oh, you're talking about buying one.
Buying
to buy one and own it.
Yeah,
for
well,
yourself,
you have and every day you can look at it. I mean, I've got one. I just keep it beside where I'm reading in the morning, and I can just look at it and say, okay. It's a little thing that says, oh man, you're healthy, congratulations, and you go on your way.